What happens in a relationship when a man believes he's doing enough, but his partner's body keeps telling a different story? That's the question too many couples avoid until the distance becomes impossible to hide. Because there's a common mistake men make during intimacy, one that feels harmless until it isn't. It's the moment he stops paying attention. The moment he stops noticing her cues, her breath, her tension, her silence, and assumes everything is fine simply because she isn't complaining. But silence isn't always peace. Sometimes silence is exhaustion. This is the mistake I've watched unfold in my clinic for years as men unknowingly trade attunement for autopilot. They think intimacy is about doing something right, about following the same steps, the same rhythm, the same familiar pattern. They believe consistency means reliability, not realizing it can also mean disconnect. Women feel this long before they say it. Their bodies tense instead of soften. Their minds drift instead of deepen, and their desire begins to shut down. Not because they don't care, but because they no longer feel felt. ChatGPT said, "What makes this mistake so subtle is that it hides inside moments that look completely normal. A man reaches for her the way he always has. He kisses her with the same rhythm, touches her with the same pressure, moves with the same pattern. To him, it feels steady, predictable, reassuring, a sign that the relationship is comfortable. But for her, comfort and connection are not the same thing. What he sees as familiarity, she often experiences as being taken for granted. Because intimacy for a woman is not about repetition. It's about recognition. It's about sensing that her partner is tuned in to who she is today, not just following an old map of who she used to be. This is where the emotional distance begins, in the moments he thinks he already knows her. He doesn't look for her cues because he assumes he understands them. He doesn't adjust his touch because he believes he's doing what has always worked. But women change, their bodies change, their cycles change, their stress changes, their desires evolve. And when a man doesn't adapt with her, when he doesn't stay curious, she starts to feel like he's with the memory of her, not the reality of her. It's a quiet kind of hurt, not sharp enough to cause a fight, not big enough to make her speak up immediately, but each time she feels unseen, she withdraws a little more. She stops guiding him with her body. She stops responding fully. She starts avoiding intimacy on days when she doesn't have the energy to pretend. And he, not realizing what's happening, may interpret her distance as disinterest, when in fact it's self-protection. She would rather pull away than endure another moment where she feels emotionally alone in a place that's supposed to be the most connected. The mistake grows when men confuse pleasure with performance. They focus on doing something to her instead of being with her. They rush, thinking speed shows confidence, not realizing it often communicates pressure. They aim for results, a reaction, a climax, a sign that they did well, when what she truly wants is engagement. Women don't open through pressure, they open through presence, through patience, through the sense that their partner is not trying to reach a destination, but trying to experience the moment with them. When a man is on autopilot, he's touching her body. But when he's attuned, he's touching her mind, her emotions, her trust. That's the difference she feels immediately, even if she doesn't have the words to explain it. Autopilot touch may not hurt her physically, but emotionally it creates a separation. It makes her feel like he's performing a routine rather than participating in a connection. And when intimacy feels routine, desire fades, not because she's losing interest in him, but because she's losing hope that intimacy can be a place where she feels fully understood. Most women can sense within seconds whether their partner is present or just moving through motions. It shows in the way he kisses, in whether he pays attention to her breath, in how he responds to her shifting energy. Intimacy for her is a dialogue, not just of words, but of signals, responses, micro moments. And when he stops listening, she stops speaking in the ways he's used to. Her body gets quieter. Her cues become softer. Her enthusiasm becomes something she has to create, not something she naturally feels. What makes this mistake so dangerous is that men often don't notice it until the consequences appear. She becomes less affectionate, less eager, less responsive. She starts turning away at night, not because she doesn't love him, but because intimacy has become a place where she feels pressure instead of partnership. And when she finally brings it up, he may feel blindsided. Because in his mind, nothing was wrong. He didn't mean to hurt her. He didn't mean to disconnect. But intention doesn't erase impact. The truth is, men don't make this mistake because they don't care. They make it because they weren't taught how much small moments matter to women. They weren't shown how deeply women feel subtle shifts in energy. They weren't told that emotional intimacy and physical intimacy are intertwined for most women, and that neglecting one slowly damages the other. The distance grows not from one big moment, but from dozens of tiny moments where she felt unseen. And yet, the solution is just as subtle and just as powerful. It begins with awareness, with slowing down, with noticing her breath and matching it, with paying attention to her body like it's a conversation, not a checklist, with understanding that intimacy is alive and something alive must be tended to, not assumed. Every woman knows the difference between a man who touches her with presence and a man who touches her with expectation. Presence feels safe. Expectation feels like pressure. Presence opens her. Expectation closes her. Presence builds trust. Expectation builds distance. And men who learn this, who understand how emotionally intelligent intimacy actually is, unlock a level of connection they never thought possible. Because when a woman feels seen, she becomes more open, more expressive, more confident, more trusting. She gives back energetically what she receives emotionally. The moment he starts paying deeper attention is the moment she starts leaning in again. Her desire wakes up. Her enthusiasm returns. Her body starts communicating again because she feels it's finally worth speaking. The beautiful truth is that this subtle mistake can be corrected. Not with grand gestures, but with consistent presence. Not with more effort, but with more awareness. Not by doing more, but by noticing more. When a man begins to approach intimacy as an act of connection instead of performance, everything changes. The emotional distance shrinks. The physical connection deepens, and intimacy becomes what it was meant to be all along. Not a routine, but a living, breathing exchange between two people who feel fully seen by each other. Women internalize this kind of hurt quietly because for them, intimacy isn't just a physical moment, it's an emotional mirror. It reflects how safe they feel, how valued they feel, how understood they feel. When something feels off, when the connection feels rushed or shallow or inattentive, they don't just notice it. They absorb it. They take it into their bodies. They hold it in their breath, their chest, their silence. And instead of expressing the hurt immediately, many women convince themselves to endure it, hoping it will pass, hoping it was just one-off night, hoping he didn't mean anything by it. This quiet absorption is often misunderstood by men because they expect hurt to be loud, verbal, obvious. They imagine that if something truly bothered her, she would speak up. But women are taught from a young age that protecting the relationship sometimes means protecting the man from discomfort. They learn to minimize their needs, to avoid conflict, to preserve harmony. And so, rather than disrupt the moment with correction, they swallow their disappointment and try to push through. That's why the hurt becomes so intense. It has nowhere to go but inward. She tucks it into a corner of her heart and tells herself it's not a big deal. But her body knows, her nervous system knows. And the next time intimacy rolls around, that quiet ache resurfaces, shaping her reactions before she even realizes it. Her desire softens. Her body hesitates. Her excitement turns into pressure. What started as a single moment of feeling unseen gradually becomes a pattern that affects how safe her body feels opening again. Women also internalize the hurt because they often blame themselves before they blame their partner. When the connection feels off, many women wonder, is it me? Am I not expressive enough? Am I overthinking? Am I expecting too much? Instead of recognizing the lack of attunement, they question their own worth. They interpret his inattention as a reflection of their desirability, their attractiveness, their appeal. This self-blame deepens the hurt because it becomes personal, even when it wasn't intended to be. This is why the pain grows silently. She feels the disconnection, but she also feels responsible for it. And because she cares about the relationship, she doesn't want to make him feel inadequate. She doesn't want to seem ungrateful. She doesn't want to make intimacy feel like criticism. So she stays quiet. She performs enjoyment. She hides the tension. She pushes her needs aside to avoid hurting his feelings, unaware that this very silence is planting the seeds of deeper emotional distance. Men often miss this because they interpret her quiet compliance as satisfaction. They think everything is fine because nothing is being challenged. But silence is not a sign of contentment, it's a sign of tolerance. And no one thrives in intimacy when they're merely tolerating it. A woman may nod, smile, lean in, even seem engaged, but inside she's taking mental notes. He didn't notice when I froze. He didn't slow down when I needed it. He didn't check in when my breath changed. And while she may push those thoughts aside in the moment, they resurface later as emotional withdrawal. Because in a woman's mind, intimacy and emotional connection are inseparable. When one feels off, both feel at risk. That's why the pain sits so deeply, because the disconnect doesn't feel physical. It feels personal. It feels like if he really understood me, he would notice. And that belief can create wounds more profound than any argument ever could. Another reason women internalize the hurt is that their bodies are wired for relational sensitivity. They pick up on subtle cues, tone, tempo, energy faster and more intensely. If something feels rushed or disconnected or misaligned, they feel it immediately. Their nervous system reacts, their body tightens, their desire dims. And because these reactions are often involuntary, they can't simply force themselves to enjoy the moment. When the emotional connection wavers, their body responds before their mind can negotiate. But even then, many women stay quiet because they fear being misunderstood. They fear he'll take it personally or feel rejected or think he's not good enough. So they hold the truth inside, hoping he'll notice on his own, hoping he'll slow down, hoping he'll ask, hoping he'll sense the shift in her energy. And when he doesn't, it confirms the hurt. He isn't paying attention. It's not that women expect perfection. They expect presence. They expect curiosity. They expect a willingness to notice, not through words, but through attunement. When that's missing, the disappointment strikes a deeper emotional chord because it touches the very core of what intimacy means to them, being known. Over time, this quiet internal hurt doesn't stay quiet. It becomes emotional distance. She starts turning away more. She avoids intimacy not out of rejection, but out of self-protection. She begins to crave emotional closeness more than physical closeness because the physical closeness no longer feels emotionally safe. And he, unaware of the internal buildup, may see this as her losing interest, when in reality she's longing for connection that feels genuinely mutual. The intensity of her hurt is not because she's fragile. It's because intimacy is where she is most open, and being unseen in the place where she is most vulnerable leaves the deepest mark. Women are not upset that men make mistakes. They're hurt when men don't notice the impact of those mistakes. They're hurt when they feel like they're the only ones carrying the responsibility for connection. But the moment she feels him truly present, the moment he slows down, watches her reactions, adjusts his touch, listens with his hands instead of his ego, she softens. Her quiet hurt begins to release. Her trust begins to rebuild. Because what she wants most isn't perfection or performance or technique. She wants partnership. She wants attunement. She wants to feel like she's not the only one protecting the connection. Women internalize this hurt quietly and intensely because intimacy matters deeply to them. And once a man understands that, truly understands it, he becomes capable of offering the kind of presence that heals her silence, dissolves the distance, and brings the relationship into a completely new level of closeness, honesty, and desire. Presence is the single factor that transforms intimacy from a routine into a living, breathing connection. Men often believe that being good at intimacy means knowing all the techniques, having stamina, or hitting a series of checkpoints. They assume that performance, effort, or perfection will satisfy their partner. But the truth is, women respond far more to how a man is in the moment than to anything he does. Presence. Being fully there, fully attuned, fully engaged matters more than pressure, more than technique, more than any preconceived notion of what intimacy should look like. Think about it. A man can follow all the rules, perform all the moves, yet if his mind is elsewhere, if he's thinking about his day, the next task, or even whether he's doing it right, she can feel it. It's in his touch, in the rhythm of his breathing, in the tension of his hands. Presence is subtle, yet its absence is obvious. Women have an uncanny ability to sense the energy behind a man's actions. They notice whether he's thinking about her or thinking about himself. They notice whether he's fully there or just going through the motions. Pressure, on the other hand, kills presence. Pressure creates a barrier between two people who could otherwise be vulnerable together. When a man feels he must achieve a certain outcome, an orgasm, a reaction, validation, he's no longer exploring intimacy with her. He's performing. And women pick up on that instantly. Even if she wants to be present herself, the energy shifts. She feels the tension and her body tightens in response. The very thing he thinks is helping, his effort to do it right, actually creates distance. Perfection is another trap. Men often fear making a mistake, thinking that any misstep will diminish desire or harm the relationship. But women don't need perfect technique. They need connection. They need awareness. They need someone who will notice when something doesn't feel right and adjust. Perfection implies rigidity, while presence implies flexibility, responsiveness, and empathy. When a man relaxes the need to be perfect and chooses to be fully attuned, intimacy transforms. Mistakes become opportunities for curiosity, exploration, and laughter instead of pressure. Presence is also about timing. It's about knowing when to slow down and when to follow her lead. It's about paying attention to subtle changes in breath, muscle tension, or eye contact. When a man is present, he doesn't just touch her body. He touches her mind, her emotions, her trust. He communicates without words. I see you. I notice you. You matter to me. And that communication, far more than any action, builds desire and closeness. Contrast this with performance-focused intimacy, where the goal is achievement or outcome. In those moments, even if the man is technically successful, the connection is hollow. She may go along with it, she may respond out of obligation, or she may internalize disappointment. Presence, by contrast, creates safety. It creates curiosity. It creates a space where she can relax, let go, and fully experience pleasure. Presence allows her to give herself without fear because she feels attended to, not managed. Another element of presence is listening, not just to words, but to signals. Women communicate constantly through subtle cues, a shift in breathing, a sigh, a gentle tremor, a pause. These are messages about comfort, desire, hesitation, or enthusiasm. When a man is present, he reads these signals and responds appropriately. He doesn't ignore them. He doesn't assume. He doesn't rush. Presence turns these micro moments into dialogue, creating intimacy that is responsive, alive, and deeply connective. Presence also removes comparison and ego from the equation. Men often measure success by how they feel in control or by external markers. How long, how hard, how perfect. Presence flips the focus. It says, I am here with you. I am curious about your experience. I want to be attuned to you, not prove myself. And this shift in mindset has a profound effect. Women sense the difference immediately. Where performance creates evaluation, presence creates partnership. Where pressure creates tension, presence creates trust. Where perfection creates distance, presence creates closeness. The irony is that presence is not effortful in the way men often imagine. It doesn't require better technique, longer sessions, or grand gestures. It requires focus, awareness, engagement, a willingness to slow down and inhabit the moment fully, to let go of distraction, to notice her responses and mirror them, to match her rhythm and energy instead of imposing his own. It's the simplest, yet most overlooked skill in intimacy, and it produces results that no technique alone can achieve. Being present also allows for genuine playfulness and spontaneity. When a man isn't bound by the script of performance, he can explore. He can laugh, tease, adapt, and learn alongside his partner. This kind of intimacy is magnetic because it's alive. It's unpredictable in the best way. It invites her to be curious, to relax, and to engage fully. Presence makes intimacy less about achieving an endpoint and more about sharing an experience together, an experience that is meaningful, connective, and pleasurable for both. In short, presence matters because intimacy is relational, not mechanical. It's about the energy two people bring to the moment, not the moves they make. It's about connection, not calculation. It's about curiosity, not control. And for women, presence is the ultimate signal of care, attention, and desire. When a man is present, he doesn't just satisfy her body, he engages her heart, mind, and emotions. He validates her existence, her pleasure, and her worth. And that is far more powerful than any measure of performance could ever be. Presence also teaches men something crucial. Intimacy is a dialogue, not a monologue. It's not about doing to her. It's about being with her. Every touch, every glance, every movement becomes a conversation. And when that conversation is attuned, the connection deepens naturally, effortlessly, and joyfully. Presence removes the pressure of outcomes because the outcome becomes secondary. The moment itself, the shared experience, becomes the reward. Finally, presence transforms trust. Women know when a man is fully engaged and genuinely attentive. That awareness communicates safety, it communicates respect, it communicates desire in the purest form. And when a woman feels safe, when she feels seen, when she knows her partner is fully present, desire and intimacy flourish in ways that performance, pressure, or perfection alone could never achieve. Presence, in essence, is the foundation upon which deep, lasting, and fulfilling intimacy is built. Curiosity, communication, and attunement are the three pillars that repair the quiet rifts that can form in intimacy. When emotional distance grows, when silence replaces conversation, or when autopilot replaces presence, trust doesn't break all at once, it erodes slowly, but the same tools that rebuild trust are often simpler than men realize. They don't require grand gestures, extravagant gifts, or perfect technique. They require attention, listening, and the willingness to explore the relationship as it exists in the moment. Curiosity begins with mindset. It's the choice to notice, to explore, to wonder. A curious man asks not in words alone, but in presence. How does this feel for you? What are you experiencing right now? How can I make this better for both of us? Curiosity requires humility. It acknowledges that he does not have all the answers, that intimacy is not about mastering a formula, but about engaging in a shared dynamic experience. And women respond to this humility. They feel it as attention, care, and interest. Curiosity signals that he is present not to perform, but to understand. Curiosity also allows men to notice small shifts that might otherwise go unnoticed. A change in her breathing, a subtle pause, a fleeting glance, all are data points that tell a story about her comfort, desire, and engagement. Without curiosity, these signals are missed. With curiosity, they become opportunities to adjust, to attune, to respond. This attentiveness is a bridge over emotional distance. Each time a man notices and responds, trust deepens. Each time he engages with curiosity, he communicates silently but powerfully that her experience matters. Communication is the companion to curiosity. Curiosity gathers information. Communication shares understanding. In intimacy, communication is not just about words. It's about expression through touch, eye contact, breath, and energy. When a man communicates with intention, he validates her experience. He says, I see you, I hear you, I feel with you. Words help, but nonverbal communication often carries the most weight. A gentle touch, a mirrored breath, a responsive pause, they all speak volumes about presence and care. Communication also includes vulnerability. A man who admits he doesn't know, who checks in with honesty, who asks, am I on the right track? Creates a space where she can relax and trust that he is invested. Vulnerable communication signals that intimacy is a partnership, not a performance. And women sense this immediately. They feel safe to open, safe to express themselves, safe to explore pleasure without fear of judgment or pressure. When communication is honest and ongoing, trust can be rebuilt even after silence or distance has crept in. Attunement is the synthesis of curiosity and communication. It is the practice of responding to her body, her mind, and her energy with empathy and precision. Attunement means noticing when she shifts and adjusting your approach in real time. It's matching her energy, modulating your pace, feeling her hesitation or excitement, and adapting. This requires mindfulness and practice, but the payoff is profound. Attunement communicates that he is fully present, fully engaged, and fully committed to the shared experience. Attunement also has a restorative power. Emotional distance often arises because she feels unseen, unheard, or unattended to. Attunement reverses that pattern. Each time a man reads her cues and responds appropriately, he rebuilds the invisible threads of trust that were frayed. It doesn't erase past missteps instantly, but it establishes a new pattern, a pattern in which she can rely on him to notice, respond, and care. Over time, these moments accumulate, creating a sense of safety and deep connection that strengthens desire and intimacy. Curiosity, communication, and attunement together create a feedback loop that enhances trust. Curiosity leads to observation. Observation informs communication. Communication informs attunement. Attunement, in turn, fosters more curiosity because he can see the positive response to his attentiveness. It's a cycle that grows stronger with each iteration, producing more openness, more vulnerability, and more intimacy. The more a man practices this cycle, the more instinctive it becomes, and the less distance there is between partners. This triad also changes the dynamic of mistakes. When a man is curious, communicative, and attuned, errors are no longer threats to intimacy. They are opportunities to learn, to adjust, and to grow closer. If he misreads a signal, if he misjudges a pace, curiosity allows him to notice. Communication allows him to acknowledge and ask for guidance. Attunement allows him to correct and respond appropriately. The moment that might have caused disconnection instead becomes a moment of connection because it's handled with care, attention, and respect. Women instinctively sense the difference between these approaches. When they feel curiosity, they feel valued. When they feel communication, they feel understood. When they feel attunement, they feel safe. And safety is the soil in which desire and intimacy grow. Without it, even the most technically skilled gestures feel hollow. With it, even simple touches become profoundly meaningful. Trust, once rebuilt, allows both partners to relax, let go, and fully inhabit the intimacy they share. In practical terms, curiosity can look like asking her to guide him, inviting her feedback, or simply observing and adapting to her body's responses. Communication can be verbal, checking in with questions, or nonverbal through tone, energy, and touch. Attunement is the integration of both, noticing her signals and responding with presence and care. Each moment of this practice reinforces trust, strengthens emotional safety, and deepens connection. Perhaps most importantly, these three elements show women that they are not alone in intimacy, that their partner is invested not just in physical pleasure, but in their experience as a whole, that he sees them, hears them, and desires them for who they truly are, not just the image of who he thinks they should be. This recognition is transformative. It turns hesitation into openness, distance into closeness, and quiet hurt into renewed connection. The beauty of curiosity, communication, and attunement is that they are accessible to every man. They do not require talent, physical prowess, or prior experience. They require willingness, the willingness to slow down, to notice, to engage, to respond. And when a man consistently brings these qualities into intimacy, trust is rebuilt organically. Emotional walls soften, desire returns, and the relationship thrives in ways that mere technique, effort, or routine could never achieve. Ultimately, curiosity, communication, and attunement are not just strategies. They are a way of being. They transform intimacy into a space where both partners feel safe, seen, and fully alive. They remind women that their experience matters. And they remind men that connection is more powerful than control, awareness more valuable than effort, and presence infinitely more important than performance. These are the tools that repair distance, heal silence, and create intimacy that is deep, lasting, and profoundly satisfying.